Kia ora koutou. We'll get this thing started. So it is 2:30 on the 28th of November 2024. Kia ora. Welcome to our we are live, right online Q&A for November. And the topic this month is peer review like a pro. If you have anything to do with giving reviews of other people's work, or you're receiving lots of reviews on your work, we are here to help you. And we have two expert consultants with us today, Jacob Lister and Daniel Androutsos. But first of all, what is Write Online? Write Online is a collection of micro-learning videos that our talented and experienced Write consultants have put together for you to learn how to communicate and make your working life a whole lot easier and better. If you're interested and you like what you see today, go to Write Online, that's write with a W, as in writing, writeonline.co.nz, and you can sign up for a free trial to see if it is for you. But without further ado, we're going to hear from our consultants first of all, so you know a little bit about them, and then we're going to get into the topic for today. While they're talking, you can begin submitting your questions. So if you have a question, maybe you've come along here and you're like, I wonder why, whatever it is, you can ask it. As long as it's vaguely on the topic of peer review, we will answer it. We don't give personal life advice today, sorry. You have to come into the office for that. Okay, so put it in the Q&A function down the bottom. Look along the bottom tab, you'll see it says Q&A. You can put in a question there and we will do our best to answer as many questions as we can. Okay, Jacob, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, so kia ora everyone, I'm Jacob. I'm from Hawera in Taranaki, the Big Smoke. I've been out of Hawera for many, many years now. I left to study. I studied teaching and I've been at Write for the last 2 years as one of the consultants helping people improve their writing.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us, Jacob. And Daniel.
Kia ora koutou. No kirihi mapora no ko tipuna, ko spetus o kirihi te mautere, ko Androutsos toko ingoa whanau, ko Pertos te ingoa whanau o toko mama, ko Daniel Androutsos toko ingoa. Kia ora koutou. How you doing?
You've been practicing.
Yeah, I've been working on that. That's almost all my reo. So yeah, I'm a plain language consultant here too. I was Jacob's learning buddy. We started together 2 years ago. I grew up in Wally, studied psychology and linguistics, worked in legal publishing for 6 years, taught English overseas for 6.5 years in between learning another language. And so same thing. I'm one of the people that help you figure out how to communicate better with your readers and get better feedback from your writers.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we look forward to a wonderful half hour. And again, if you have a question, you can participate. This is live. We are live. We're going to be answering questions. Go into the Q&A function down the bottom and we will get to your questions. But the first thing we do on these live Q&As is I will be asking each of our consultants for their top 3 tips so that you have something practical to take away, even if you had to rush into a meeting or do an urgent piece of work in the next few minutes, you would still get something valuable. So Jacob, I'm going to start with you. Give us your top 3 tips for people out there if they're going to go and do a peer review and they want to do it really well.
Okay, for me, anytime you're giving feedback to anyone, it's always really important that you lead with what someone has done well. People don't hear that often enough. And if your feedback cycle is only things that you've done bad, you're going to think that you suck. So always lead with what they've done well. Always give a really specific reason for why something needs to be changed or why it's done really well. If you only say, I like this and I don't like this, people don't know what to do with that and they don't know how to replicate it or avoid it in the future. And those reasons should always be based on something objective. So either plain language standard, either a style guide, or it's correct or incorrect English grammar. So if it's not for any of those reasons, and it's just because I would do it this way, that's not going to be useful for anyone. So those are my 3 main tips.
Fantastic, great way to start. Okay, Daniel, what would you add there? 3 top tips for our viewers out there.
Yeah, I think some of what makes the feedback effective is when, from the writer, there is a clear purpose and outcome for the work they're working on, and some clear understanding of the readers and their needs. And ideally, you want to get that from them when they give you the document to review, so that the feedback that you're giving them is focused on what's going to be best to get those outcomes for those readers. And again, if your writers focus on those things, then and your feedback's focused on those things, then your writer's probably not going to be offended by your feedback if it's based on what's going to be best for their reader to help them achieve the outcome that they're looking for. So getting clarity on those things is really key. And if your writers aren't thinking about those things, then a peer review is a great opportunity to start.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Well, we've already got a couple of questions coming in, but we're going to start with a question that we get a lot, which is, I'm asked to peer review, but I don't know how much I can change. Any tips for me? So a really common thing that we find is that when people are asked to peer review, they don't quite know how far they can go. Can I edit it? Can I change it? Am I just giving feedback? I just want to hear from both of you a little bit of framing here. When we talk about peer review, what are we talking about? Jacob, what would you say?
I would say in a situation like this, whenever you're in doubt, ask the writer. Ask the writer how much of your input they want. Because sometimes when people say, hey, can I get some feedback? They don't really know what they're asking for, or they've got a clear idea, but it's very different to what you think it is. So in terms of how much can you change, what areas to focus on, what specifically, why are you changing it? Are you doing it to make sure that it makes sense, or are you doing it to make sure that the document is doing what it's supposed to? They're all very different things. So check in with the writer if you're ever not too sure.
Great advice. Daniel, what would you say on that one?
Yeah, I think it's so many of these writing problems are solved through face-to-face communication, through asking questions, accepting that you don't know something and you're going to have to ask a question, because that's how you get the knowledge. And you may even prompt the writer to think about things they have never even thought of before. Peer review is interesting because it means different things to different people, depending on the team they're working on or the needs. Pure peer review is really about helping the writers improve by empowering them with the things that they can do to improve the document. It doesn't mean it's coaching. It's so you're not rewriting everything. You might be rewriting some things as examples of how they might work better for the reader, but ideally you're giving the writer the ability to make those changes. But it can't always be that. Sometimes, it's like when I say peer review, I mean, can you edit it? Or can you tell me what I need to do? Because I don't know what I'm doing, for example. So, yeah, it's like that communication, clarifying what exactly they want is so key.
Great. Okay, lovely. So it certainly pays to ask. Returning back to Jacob's advice, and the reason I wanted to start with that one was it does mean lots of different things to different people. So if you have any questions around that, around specifically what you're meant to be doing as a peer reviewer or anything to do with your role, you can pop that in the Q&A slot down the bottom. So let's get to a viewer question. Thank you very much, Angeline. Angeline's in the house, and Angeline asks, any tips or advice as to what are the best tools and methods for collecting and tracking feedback from multiple people across multiple rounds? So I guess this is where we're working on, say we're compiling a report. We've got people that are giving sections on from different angles, different contributions. We've got different drafts coming through. Any general bits of advice that you would give to Angeline? Daniel's furiously writing some ideas there. Anything to start with, Jacob?
So I've got no specific advice for tools, but I guess what I will say is it doesn't matter, and I think it was you that I got this from, Thomas. It doesn't matter who it is or what it's about. If you ask someone to give feedback on something, they will find something to give feedback on it, even if it doesn't need that feedback. And so if you've built into your work systems that it has to go through 6 different people, there's a good chance that the advice you'll get will contradict at some point. So that's not to say that you should get as few people to peer review as possible, but it just means that more doesn't mean better in a peer review. So sometimes the feedback you're trying to organize isn't organizable. I'll leave that there for now. Danny, what do you reckon?
The other thing is, just further to your point, Jacob, is that, like you said, if it's got to go through 6 rounds, is it clear what each round is meant to be doing? So sometimes it might be an initial peer review just to see if it's on the right track. The next one might be to give more of a strategic viewpoint. One might be a practical viewpoint. One might be a legal viewpoint, and then it might get into proofreading. And I think you're right that sometimes if people aren't clear on what they're going to be giving feedback on, they'll just look for anything. They'll just start in there and go, don't like the font that you've used. There can be all sorts of different angles on that one. Okay, Daniel.
Yeah, I was thinking about what our content team do, and we keep a very precise version history of our documents so that it's generally clear, just from the title of the document, who's been reviewing on it and what elements they've been focusing on. So that, and make sure you're regularly doing that so nothing gets doubled over or erased. I'm just, as a thought, I'm wondering if AI might be useful here, as far as, like, if you're gathering a lot of feedback from a lot of different sources on a document, and you're trying to even out and figure out, what's the general consensus or general point of view, AI might be able to kind of summarize that for you and give you some clarity on what the main themes are.
It certainly could, with the security caveat that if you put anything into AI, you've got to kind of assume that it might go out into the public, not directly, but in some form. So
it depends on your license and the product.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, thank you for your question, Angeline. Hopefully that's helpful. Let's go to another question. This is about, on a similar theme about track changes. Anonymous attendee, thank you very much, says, do you find using track changes is helpful when reviewing? Or is it more effective to just make those changes so the reviewee can see the improved words? So I guess this is here's the version that I think, and they should be able to see those differences. Or do we see track changes and sometimes it can be quite fiddly with all of the different parts in there? Is there a situation where we would maybe do both or one or the other? What would you say, Daniel?
Yeah, I think it really depends. I've done both, and as a writer, I generally like to see all the changes that have been made because I'm nitpicky. But I've also sometimes sent clients documents without track changes, where the changes that I've made have either been like typos or obvious things that I don't need feedback on or the comments on. And the areas where I've changed have been focused enough that I've just put comments around the things I've changed for them to get an impression from. So it depends on your writer, what you want from them. Sometimes we just want the thing to be better and to go. In that case, it's probably not going to be important. Again, having a clear version history so you can still go back to the previous version and run a comparison if you want to is key here. Track changes can be useful if you actually want the person to see how much work is being done. And one of our previous trainers here also suggested that if you want them to actually make the changes, print it out so that they've got it in front of them. And otherwise, they'll just accept it, and they're gone. So.
Okay, good points. Jacob, anything to add on that one?
Yeah, I would say it depends on how the person's using the track changes is one thing. So if everything is being changed and it's just everything is red and it's hard to know how to decipher it, then might be better to just keep track changes off, make a lot of big changes, summarize it to the person when you give them the document back. Or if the person needs a lot of significant coaching, I think going to what you were saying, Daniel, if you want to make sure that the person's actually looking at the things that you're changing and understands why those things are being changed rather than just spamming accept, then that's something that's worth keeping in mind. But again, I think does the writer want track changes or not? And is the person that's making the changes comfortable using that or not? Yep,
great stuff. Let's go to an associated question here. I have to give feedback to one of my team and find myself giving the same feedback every time, which feels like a waste of time. How do I stop making the same? How do I help them to stop making the same mistakes over and over? Any thoughts on that one? What would you say, Jacob?
So this kind of goes back to what I was saying about being specific. So uh, something that I see often in workshops when you ask people to rewrite a sentence and you get them to come up with why specifically are you suggesting this change? And sometimes they'll say something like, I'm not sure what you mean, or this is unclear. But to the person that wrote that sentence, it is clear what that means. So if you're not really specific about what rule are they breaking, or what specific words are the problems, or what specific, did you put a comma in the wrong place, or are you using the words that go against what we're required to say as part of the organization's messaging? If you're not really specific, the writer won't probably know what you mean.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Your thoughts, Daniel? So this is
Yeah,
like getting where is the line between giving feedback and coaching someone? They're not listening to advice.
I mean, the thing is, when we say feedback, what do we mean? Are we talking about changes on a document, or are we sitting down talking through what's actually changed here? Because if it's the same error that's occurring, I mean, it's a conversation at some point just to find out, if the person, how do they feel about those things? Like, if it's an error, it's a mistake. Maybe they're rushed for time, and that's why those things are being. If they're choosing to put information in a certain way with a certain tone, they may have some reasoning for it, and it's probably worth giving them a chance to talk about that. And they, is there something that you find challenging with this? You want some help, and again, sometimes knowing what you need to do properly is not the same as being able to do it. Like, you need practice, and if it's like using the template in the right way, putting the right information in the right place, it might be helpful to sit down and have a session together going through that, get down to the level, find out what are the main causes of that, and being incredibly non-judgmental, and then find out the best way to help them. It might be they're like, I don't like our style guide. I don't agree with that approach. That's why I'm doing it this way, and they might be right. Maybe it's not a very reader-focused style guide, or maybe they're afraid of plain language, and we need to kind of coach them into understanding that plain language works for everyone. So.
Good. Very good. Okay, thank you, folks. So let's move on to another viewer question. This is from another anonymous attendee. I'd be interested to hear your advice on this one. If you don't want to take on their feedback, how do you communicate that back? And should you get back? And tell the peer reviewer why you aren't taking their advice? Go, Daniel. You're nodding. What do you what's your first response to that one?
Yeah. It's kind of connecting to what I was saying before. Like, maybe, say, if you're on the plain language team, and we train people, right? And how to do this. It's really about being focused on your reader. And people come to our workshops and they're enlightened. They realize this is the best thing I can do to get the results I want, best thing for my reader. And then they go back to organizations, and then sometimes there's somebody who just doesn't get it yet, and then your great efforts to improve your writing being undone by somebody who isn't informed yet. So in those cases, I reckon, again, it's probably worth having, and not like an email or a Teams chat battle with them, make some time to sit down face to face and just listen, and then find out what the reasoning is, because you may have a level of knowledge now that they don't have about how to communicate with readers and how the way we write impacts the impression that we make. We're not usually making the best impression with our fancy words and complex structures. Maybe we feel we do. I'd make some time.
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe I'm saying these things, you're like, oh, that's not how I want to write. Well, then, maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you need to listen too.
Yeah. Okay. Jacob, thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think it's really case by case. I can see a situation where the peer reviewer or the writer could be the one that's more in the wrong. Not that it's about right or wrong, but what I would say is, regardless of the situation, in a situation where you disagree and there's an argument on both sides, I'd say move forward with the mentality that you're both on the same team trying to make the best document that you can. And it's not about who wins and who's right.
Very good.
I'd say you can't lose if that's your approach.
Yeah. And also comes back to one of your first top tips, Jacob, about having some kind of objective way of deciding. Like it's not just your opinion, it's something that you can point to and go, this says, or this previous precedent, this is where we've used this, so we should. Okay, thank you, folks. Now we've still got 10 minutes left, so if you do have a question, if something that one of our consultants has said has got you thinking about something, you can ask it. Now is your time. If you get off this and you haven't asked that question, you will regret it. So put it in the Q&A and we can answer it for you. Here's one in the meanwhile. And this is an interesting one going back the other way as well on the topic of having your work peer reviewed. I get really unhelpful feedback from my peer reviews. What's going wrong? What would you say if, because some people thrive on feedback, right? Like they really value the peer review process because when it's going well, it helps them to be a better writer. So what advice would you give to this person who is, they probably desperately want some really good feedback, but what they're getting isn't really good enough? What would you say? Who wants to go first?
Look, it's such a recurring theme here, like writing problem, solve it, face-to-face communication. Right, so you're getting feedback that's not helpful, maybe because it's not being explained or justified, or you don't know what it's actually trying to achieve because the person isn't, maybe they're in a rush, so they can't give you quality feedback on your document. So it's like, make these changes. You need to send them an email. You need to go and see them and say, look, I noticed you've been giving me feedback on these things, and I'd really love to make some time to sit down and find out more about what I can do to help achieve the outcomes that we're looking for with these documents, because I feel like maybe there's something we can do to get on the same page, and a bit more understanding of what you're looking for and why it would really help me to serve you better. Like, so show them the value in making some time to sit down with you to them, and then you might get what you need.
Lovely. Great advice. Thank you. Jacob, anything to add on that one?
I suppose it depends on what flavor of unhelpful it is. So is it not specific enough? That's one thing. So make it more specific. Another thing could be where, so a situation that comes to mind that I hear a lot is where you've got one person who is ruthless in the way that they give feedback, and that's the way that they like to receive it. And then you've got someone who's a lot more gentle in the way that they give feedback because that's the way that they like to receive it. And when you've got two people with different styles, it's quite difficult sometimes for them to be effective. So in the same way that you tailor what you write for your reader, tailor your feedback to the person's kind of temperament and how they like to learn and improve. So maybe that might help, but it depends on what about it is unhelpful.
Yeah, it might be that you need to let the person who's giving you feedback know about the style of feedback that works best for you, as Jacob mentioned.
Okay, let's move on to an associated question. So here's another one. I'm a very critical person and I have trouble giving feedback to some of our newer team. How do I soften my messages? So this is exactly in the territory, right? As in, if exactly what you've said, Jacob, you've got two very different styles. What are some things someone can specifically do to soften their messages? So we're not saying that you've always got to say the thing that needs to be said. Like if there's information that's wrong, it's just coming from the wrong angle or misses the point, you have to communicate that. What are some things that you can do to just soften that a little bit, especially if someone is new or they might be quite sensitive about their writing? Any advice? We'll start with you, Jacob.
I mean, even changes as simple as rather than saying, oh, no, you need to change this. You might phrase it with, oh, I'd suggest changing this because blah, blah, blah. And the blah, blah, blah should be something that they can agree on as well. So, oh, maybe if you worded this way, it would sound a lot softer. Or maybe if you worded things this way, it would be a little bit clearer with what you're saying. Or, oh, actually, we have to write things in this way because of our style guide. So just the tone is a lot better. Also, with anything, if there's a lot of negative feedback that you have to give, it might be better received in a face-to-face conversation rather than here's an email and everything that you did wrong and here's why you suck. go and change that.
Daniel, anything to add?
Yeah, and like we hear about the compliment sandwich. There's some truth to doing it if you do it well. Like we always say, start with some feedback, some specific positive feedback on something about the document that does work well for the reader. And it might be that most of it needs to be redone, but there's always something. It might be the layout. It might be the choice of. It might be that the essential content is there. It might be like I can see you provided the reader all the content that they need to be fully informed about this issue. So that's great. We just need to tailor it so that it's easier for them to find that information, and the extra information maybe we'll place somewhere else. Focus your efforts. It's like when I used to review people's essays for the IELTS exam when I was teaching English. Like I'd go through and I'd end up marking up everything that needed to be corrected because they needed to know the errors. But I wouldn't imagine that I could go into the next lesson and teach them how to fix all that. You have to prioritize. What are the most important issues that they need to sort out first? And I'm going to focus on helping them get those things right, and we'll slowly work through the other ones. And just let them know that it's okay that they're learning. We're not expecting them to be perfect at this point. We just need to help them kind of improve in chunks.
Very good. And also that reminds me of choosing the language of must change, should change, could change. So it's not perceived as though everything that you're suggesting has to go into action. There are some things that you would have to change, but then there are other things that maybe is up to the discretion of the writer. Okay, we have time for maybe one more question. So here's one that I'm interested in your responses on. My team are really busy, so I often end up just changing their work myself. It's usually faster too. Any suggestions? So this might be a situation, maybe there's a peer review process. They're meant to be just giving feedback, but they just sneakily go in there and just do it themselves and fast forward there. Is there anything wrong with that? Are there any risks that you might advise this person to be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's busy. Everyone's always busy. So I would say that ultimately the end goal would be if you have these people correcting their own mistakes, it will save you time in the long run. So that's, if you're measuring it based on it's quicker, it's not over the span of your life. And that's time that you won't ever get back. So it depends on how you want to spend it, but you're welcome to spend it however you like.
Hey, when I said at the start that we don't give personal advice, I was wrong. Okay, Daniel, what would you say? What would you say to this person? They're trying to help. They just want to get through their lives. What do you do?
Well, look, I mean, it depends, right? Like if it's a case where you're basically doing the proofreading because somebody needs to proofread it, and you're not finding like an abnormal amount of errors doing this. Like, okay, they've done the document now, I just need to proofread it. Then, that's maybe not the worst thing. If you're finding you're spending a lot of time having to work on the things, or these issues are recurring, then it's probably better to see what we can do to change that approach. Some of it is about kind of getting those checks done earlier. We talk about putting a well-developed outline together and getting somebody to check that to make sure you're on the right track before you fill in all the gaps on your document. And you could, again, you check the completed draft before any proofreading gets done, just to kind of break that thing up. So we encourage the use of the plain language standard. It's our key guide for planning, writing and reviewing. And if you can get them into the habit of using that, then they may catch more of their errors before they get to you. Any of our business writing workshops would nail that, or even our peer review one. So and you can download that for free from a website at Plain Language Standard. You can just jump straight into that. So there's quite a few things you could do. But again, if you're pretty much just purely in a proofreading role at that point, and they're doing their best, then that's not the worst thing. But we can make improvements.
Okay. All right. Well, that's about all the time we have. Now, I'm just going to give Jacob and Daniel a second to think about their final words that they want to say before we head off. But just a reminder, this Q&A has been brought to you by Write Online. If you have enjoyed what you've seen today, if you've enjoyed hearing our consultants, what they've got to say. You can hear more of it if you go to writeonline.co.nz. You can sign up for a free trial and see if it's for you. We've got videos on anything you can think of to do with communication, and maybe even a little bit of life advice. Who knows? Go on and see if it's for you. And I will now pass over to our consultants for our final word, and then say see you later. Jacob, will go in the same order. You're first.
Okay. Is this just my main most important nugget of information?
Parting words could be a bit of wisdom, just to recap. Could be a bit of encouragement.
Okay. I would say if you're going to do peer review, make sure you're the right person for the job. Are you an expert in the field? Are you able to check that the work or that the document is doing the thing that it needs to do? Do you understand the readers well enough? Do you understand enough about the content in the thing that you're checking? And then otherwise, I don't think I've got anything more peer review or life advice to add.
All good. Okay, Daniel, final words.
Step away from the keyboard, pick up the phone. We'll go for a walk.
Lovely. Get back to the human side. Okay, well, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much for joining us, folks, and we'll see you again probably in the new year, I think, for another round of lovely Write Online live Q&As. But for now, ka kite anō.